call this meeting to order for the Holiday Island City Advertising and Promotion Commission for November 11th, 2024 at 6 p.m. If we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
We can stand, that's the hard part about it.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Secretary, if you would take the attendance.
Commissioner Brown?
Here.
Commissioner Elwood?
Here.
Vice Chair Lawler? Late. Chair Holland?
Here.
Secretary Treasurer Lodewijk's here, and Commissioner Plumley here.
Here.
We have a quorum.
On the agenda, thought there was something that I had moved, but there's not.
If there's no change to it, I make a motion to approve the agenda as published.
Second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye. We've all got the minutes, so I'll make the same motion that we approved the
Make the
minutes
same
from
minutes.
October 7th.
Second.
We have a first and a second on the minutes for October 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Moving on to the financial report. Secretary Treasurer, would you
Thank
give
you.
us the financial report?
You've all seen the financial report. We have income interest of $22.95, and the only expense that we have is the monthly 1/3 of the fund guide, where we're splitting it with HIAPC. So our total is $8,291.45.
We don't need a motion to approve
You
it.
just-
do
We don't need any motion to approve it. I will say the only other expense that's in there is one of the expenses for the web hosting, web service. There is a bill for it that will come out at the beginning of this
Yeah, 'cause
month, so
we did not get anything for
we
October.
didn't have it in October. We did get, there was a grant that was in place for the web service that AWS, the
That
government
was-
server, did give us for that. So we've got, some of the time was reduced,
Okay,
or the bill was reduced for some
yeah,
time.
because we have not had any more expenses in the month of October.
Yep. Come. Any questions on the financial report? If not, we'll move on to business. Old business first. Going back to discussion on A&P appointment for it was Tyler Scroggins' seat. At this point, unfortunately, we don't have anybody to appoint at this point. We have contacted 5 or 6 people, and we are coming up empty-handed at this point.
It has to be
So-
tourist interest.
Has to be tourist interest. Restaurants or short-term rentals. They have to live inside of the county of Carroll County. A few of them that were talked to, Sunfest, just over there, but he lives in Missouri, and it cuts him out.
Marachi lives in Missouri.
Lives in Missouri. There are a few that have not gotten back to me, so hopefully we can get somebody to appoint to that and come back to a special meeting here soon.
Well, the first comment you made, what did they have to be involved in? What business or how do you do that?
In that spot, it can be involved in any restaurant or short-term rental. There's also a part in there that will let us do anybody that's in tourism, which we'd have to find a way to define if they were in the tourism industry or not.
Yeah.
Was Tyler's, when he's in that position because of the golf
He
situation?
was in for
Restaurant,
restaurant, and
the
you
whole
were in for
operation,
short-term.
yeah.
Okay.
The tourist side of
Okay.
coming to that.
Alright.
So, we're still looking for somebody, so if there are any
Anybody in the
suggestions.
Yeah, well, we would hope that Al would, but then he doesn't have a short-term rental anymore.
At some point, HIAPC will backfill Lauren's position at the clubhouse, and that would probably be a potential candidate anyway.
Yep. So it's kind of a wait and see see if we get any response from anybody, if we find anybody. If anybody's got a suggestion, send it to me and we'll.
That discussion's coming up at the next meeting, about that position.
Okay.
So that is the only thing I have on the AP. I was hoping we'd find somebody before now, and that's why it's sitting there, but right now we're still empty-handed on that. Moving on to approve the final event report for Risen Rides. I think Sarah, I'll let you take that one.
Okay,
She had most of you on that.
you all got the information where she showed that there were 15 participants and they had at least 2 nights rooms. And again, she was only concentrating on those that came for the rib barbecue. But she did give us all kind of proof of use of the $250 for all of the boosting on Facebook and all that. So she did a good job. She answered all the questions, so we wanted to share the results with you all.
Are they gonna try it again next year?
Yeah, it's booked for next year. And we moved it to Saturday, because they said that there would more people be coming on a Saturday. And they would stay overnight, because they didn't have to go to work the very next day. So it's already booked.
Do you know what the date is on that?
Yes, September, I think it's the 6th is the Sunday, hold on. Ribs and Rides, September 6th. And that'll be the car show also.
Any chance that we can get more people to sell ribs?
Yes, I've already talked
A
to,
lot of people came and said,
I
where do
know.
we buy the ribs? I said,
yeah.
well,
I've got several food trucks that are actually gonna be making the ribs
Oh,
from 10
okay.
in the morning until 5 at night.
I got plenty of ribs, but no,
I know, cause you were a judge.
plenty of ribs, and they were really, really good.
No, in fact, Harlan Bro's nephew that cooked recently, his ribs were out of this world. He's from Alexandria, he said he'd come back and cook, so we at least have one of the people.
Cause there was a lot of people came in or talked to me while I was walking around, even though I was in a tree, and said, where can we buy ribs? I said, well, you got the one place and they're pre-ordered, so.
Yeah, well, and he didn't come in time, so
Yeah.
we're not gonna use them again.
Okay,
Thank you.
So, question on this real quick, just to know, we don't have any tracking mechanism in here on the 250 that we
That's what
gave
these
as a
are.
grant. That's the advertising they did.
Basically,
So-
advertising they did was on, they boosted.
So 18,013 people were reached in the ad.
It was a Sunday was the problem, is what she said, so we moved it to Saturday.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions or comments on the event?
I think overall it was really well done, everybody seemed positive. There's an error that you see sometimes when you go to different events.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was.
We had over 315 people that came because they had the exhibits, we also had the car show, and 50% of them were from outside Holiday Island. So the event was successful,
Yeah.
and it'll be better next year.
I will say that I think the event went pretty well. I did get to judge ribs, and so I'm not complaining about that at all. I had a very enjoyable
I did too,
event.
let me tell you.
Pat was there
I
also,
was
that's
there, I
right.
had plenty of ribs,
Um,
plenty of ribs left over too.
It did, and
Boy, there were some
And I got some of those
really, really
afterwards.
good ones.
And I will say, I was not disappointed in eating. It was good. So,
As far as the car show being on the parking lot where the rec center is, and the barn have things going on, it would be too crowded to have it on one area, right?
Plus, we expected expansion, and people seem to be, if you were at car show one year, they want to go to the same location.
Okay.
So for me to expand the exhibitors in the middle, the car show, and the ribs, I had to have it spread out. I'm gonna try to get more golf carts this year to help people move from one part to another,
Okay.
But you're right,
secondary, just question, we did spend $250 on it.
Yes.
We did.
we did.
Looks like they contacted 18,000 people through the advertising. Major majority of them 45 and older. in that. I guess the question I have is, how did the said benefit from that? What did they, do we know
Well, we
what they rented?
We rented off the entire sports complex.
Do you know what the total rental of that event?
Well, that was over $500. But then they also supplied us with $500 worth of prizes too. So it was a mutual working thing. And it'll be more next year, I believe.
Gotcha.
Good questions.
All right. Any other questions on that? Any public comments on that?
I think it was successful.
Did you go to the event?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the idea of holding it on Saturday is a much better idea. It'll go over bigger, more big.
More big, but yes.
And I'll be available to be a judge this year.
Oh, okay. We'll put you down.
That's the only volunteer position at Holiday Island that it's not hard to fill. I don't know why that is.
There were plenty of judges there.
Plenty of judges.
Plenty of judges.
Although I was judge one year for the chili cook-off.
I don't think I.
And boy, I tell you, by the time I went home, I was so full of chili, I couldn't hardly move.
Yeah.
I don't think I can do. I can't even walk around the chili festival with those little bitty cups. By the time I get all around, decide where to drop the marble, I said, oh.
It's a good thing you guys are trained professionals, that's all.
Yeah,
I
that's right.
That's right.
Look at that.
Yes, you have a question?
And I'm in shape for it too.
Would you come up and tell your name? That's,
Oh, are you serious?
Oh,
no,
yeah.
it's supposed to.
You go, girl.
Thank you. We're
I'm Vicki
good.
Miller. I am a property owner of Holiday Island. And just one of the comments on the car show and the ribs cook-off. We had a lot of people that were confused on where the ribs were. If they're at the car show, they didn't know how to get to the other section. So I think if we had some signage,
Okay.
or maybe in the advertising or something, it would indicate that there's going to be like two different locations, but they're connected.
Okay.
I think you're right, that's a good comment, because that's what I was thinking about. If you could scrunch them together. to
It
use
would
a
be
proper
ideal,
word, but,
right.
They had to be that way, and then I've been to car shows all my life, and I had several of those classic cars. But anyway, next year it'll be bigger, and we've got that parking down right behind the backstop there by the pickleball courts. That's where the public was using it. But it's just about, you might be able to use that for classic cars as well. But you've got to have, like Bryce was saying, we had 2 or 3 more carts, or Peggy said, to get people back and forth, especially with kids, So we're up there eating ribs, but we want to get on the car show, but they really don't know how to traverse that area.
Exactly,
Yeah.
And we had programs, we had 250 programs, but they didn't give them out. People didn't want the programs. And in the program, it gave you where you should be at what time, plus all of the sponsors and everything.
Just because of the world we live in today,
Yeah.
is there any way to do one of those,
QR codes?
where people can download the information to
Okay.
their phones? Because they'll read their phone, but they won't read paper.
You're a good idea, and it'd be cheaper. Thank you. Well, it makes,
Some of us still
that's
read
good
it,
ideas.
Well, yeah.
but not many.
Does that tell you what group we're in?
You can tell by the color of my hair that I still read paper.
No, that's a good idea.
Was there a problem that, I heard at the event too, that there was a problem with people finding where the location was? People that weren't from here.
But
Is there an address thing or something?
The
like that?
address was 13 Buckskin, it takes you right into the car show. The real problem is the 120 Shields takes you to a house. And 125 takes you to a condo. And then you get 120 again, which is the barn. And we've talked to the mayor and I said about that. We have our issue too, is trying to put signage, because you can't put signage on the right of way and the ground's so hard. Because we had signs that said event with arrows and stuff like that. So, if we get them to Buckskin, which is easier, and then we maybe should have signs that say the ribs are around the corner, rather than trying to give them the barn, because you can't get
You
there.
can't even put the barn in on GPS because it doesn't have it.
There's no mail.
There's no mailing address. The mailing address is the same as the rec center. The whole
Right.
complex is the
Yeah.
same address.
So we'll just have to put more signage at the rec center to direct them to the rib place. But we had cars coming up here where we had it 3 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
which make no sense.
Yeah.
But we didn't put a sign up here saying, please go back to,
I'm wondering if you could get a sign that you could have two messages on it and have it right at the corner where you turn toward the pickleball courts. It's, buckskin. Anyway, it would say arrow this way, ribs and whatever.
Yeah.
And this arrow would say car show. They're right there at the, there's a big parking lot, you know, big grassy area.
yeah,
Right in the corner of Shields and Buckskin.
yeah,
I think they're rentable, not too expensive.
okay.
Yeah.
We'll try to get something go better. Okay.
Another idea? Do I have to come up?
You're going to
Absolutely, step up there.
Our friend Billy just had an idea that we could do like, what do you call them, sandwich cards?
Sandwich boards.
Yes, sandwich boards.
Yeah.
Especially ones that have things on the inside, so you can put them down with bricks so they won't blow away.
Yeah,
If you can't get the wires on the other kind of
Right.
signs to go through.
yeah. The new ones are coming all that way now. Yeah, okay, good. Add that to my list. Thank you.
All right. Moving on to discussion on budget. I was hoping to get a budget ready to look at today, and I'll tell you, I am so far from getting a budget completed for a projected number of next year. We're gonna have to come back sometime later in November. We had to do it by end of December, I believe is the date, or January, I think is the date. But the city
Well,
has to approve it
I
after it
have to
goes through.
submit a budget to the city council, by December 1st.
Yep.
They don't have to approve it until February 1st. But since this is the first year for the A&P Commission, I'm not sure that, you know, that the A&P part of the budget needs to be in the one that I'm responsible for
Yeah.
December 1st.
I know the council has to approve our budget once we
Yeah.
complete it here. They'll have to approve it at some point, so.
Yeah. I would say the drop dead deadline is February 1st, because then that's the deadline for the city council to have all the budgets approved.
And I've got multiple meetings coming up this next week with other A&P commissions across the state, directors and the different ones. So I'll have a little bit better idea as we move through November.
Are you going to the meeting?
Do I?
Did you say you're going to a meeting?
I've got a couple meetings set up by phone with some of the different departments,
Okay.
of other A&Ps, all the way down from Hot Springs to Eureka, Fayetteville, Little Rock.
You know, Bryce, if you don't mind, I'm gonna comment on that. Mayor Dan has been on the Board of Commission for 5 years, I think. I've been on 8 years, and one of the things that we don't do is we don't train people. We don't say, okay, you're elected to the Board of Commissioners, let's say Pat here.
No,
and
it's not.
No, okay. Let's just say John Doe, and we don't have any training period here locally, nor do we send them to the municipal league or anything else. Now, I can say this, even though Linda Graves is not here, but I appreciate her. She goes to the municipal league and pays her own way, okay? Now, I was superintendent of schools for 8 years in different districts in Colorado, and the board members were expected to go to Colorado Springs, or it was a nice place to go, the Broadmoor Hotel. But we had it in our budget that you were to be trained, and there wasn't a requirement of so many hours, but it just was expected. And running a multi-million-dollar budget is complex, and whether it's A&P or whatever. So I would say, Bryce, as chair, that if there's something that comes up where there's a whole 50 A&P commissions there, you're going to learn a lot, and it would be worth the expense of motel and mileage for having you attend that.
So, I haven't seen, and you may, there's not any municipal league part for the A&P commissions at all.
Okay.
But I did go ahead and reach out to other A&P commissions and set up meetings with directors and everything else, so.
Okay, good.
I've got meetings set up to talk to them about different things and try to get a jump on some of the stuff. We have 5 months, I believe it is, before the first collection date, so it's not a whole lot of time between now and then.
Okay.
So,
Right.
once I get through those meetings this next week, I'll have a better idea on it.
Okay.
Moving on to discussion on website. I think with this being passed, we do have the base part of the website. It is not active right now. It's still in a pending status, so it's not usable. But I suggest that we go to bid out the rest of the work that needs to be done. I did finish the first 60% of the formatting and everything else. It's more of a data entry ordeal at this point. But I am running out of time. So I would like to do a motion to approve to start taking bids on completing the site that's currently there, waiting to be finished. I think is the direction to go.
One question I would have is when you talk to these other commissions, you might want to ask them, who do you use, or when you were starting out, who did you use, what are the costs projected, so we get a little idea of what we're looking at here. I know just in Eureka Springs, because we read it in the paper all the time, they, not a website particularly, but the advertising that they do, like that 18,000 hits you had earlier on the other event, there's a lot of discussion at their meetings about how the website is, how successful it is, and it's pretty successful, but I know it costs a lot of money to keep that going. I think we're in a different stage here, just beginning, but I agree, I don't think it's, we should ask you to do it, you've got other jobs.
I make a motion that you arrange for getting bids to update our website.
I'll second that.
We have a first and a second. You want to take a roll call vote on it since it is an item?
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Elwood?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lars not here. Chair Holland?
Aye.
Chair Plumley?
Aye.
Commissioner Plumley, and Secretary Treasurer Lodewijk, aye. It passes.
Okay. Pass that, and I'll just get the bids together on it, and we'll bring them back here for the next meeting.
I'll send you a website that takes care, or a company that takes care of Eureka Springs websites.
Okay.
I know they were running about $1,000 a year,
Okay. Yeah.
and they took care of all of it.
Okay.
Good, thanks.
Moving on to discussion on the tax form. This is actually
Michael's.
Commissioner Plumlee's form. You changed something in the form, I guess. Fill us in on what you changed. I don't have the previous one in front of me.
Yeah, I'll taste a little bit in there. I combined, down on number 3A, I combined VRBO, Airbnb, Evolve, and Mikasa, because they're all, you can all personally use them without using a property management company. And they can and will pay the taxes for the homeowner or property owner. And I just did personal website, if you have a personal website that you also read through, let it be there. And number C, I put the SID instead of meeting rooms and others.
Okay.
And there are some typos in there that need to be changed.
Do you know anything about the current issues coming up right now with,
Booking.com?
I believe it's Booking.com, that has taken some type of contract from Airbnb or VRBO and is cross-leaking the listings right now, and everybody is having a problem getting collection from them?
I'd have nothing to do with Booking.com because their fees are outrageous.
As I understand, this is a part that came from Airbnb, that Airbnb has sourced a secondary listing into Booking.com, and
I haven't heard anything about that. I'll actually get home tonight and I'll look and see if any of my properties are listed on Booking.
Eureka CAPC said that they have
I'll
this
look and see if
problem.
any of mine are. If they are, and it comes down to that, I'll pull mine from Airbnb on heartbeat. I'm just looking for a reason to do it anyway.
Okay.
but it's something new that has just recently happened with
Yeah.
Booking.com. Put it in.
I think this form looks fine, that if I were a owner or using it, I would know how to do it. I think, are you looking for any edits?
There's a few edits in there.
Huh.
There's a few edits that need to be in there.
And he
Little
had,
spaces here and some,
he also had instructions, he had
Yeah, I
instructions,
had
and he had
instructions.
one filled out that we would use as a sample
Okay.
talk to the clerk.
Should I give this to you then?
I'll give it to Michael. Thanks. He's editing for you.
Was there any other changes on the form from the
Not that I-
previous one?
Not that I recall, no.
I have a question, Mike. Number C, enter the numbers. It says SID other. SID, okay, they're either RBO, Airbnb, Evolve, Picasa, and so forth. Then a website. That SID is, I don't
The
understand.
SID, the SID,
Hi, Sid,
I see.
plus any
Oh,
other
that's
one.
from HIAPC.
Yeah,
Yeah.
plus any other, that's
Oh,
just,
okay, gotcha.
anything else that's not listed in those top two
Okay.
would
Right.
fall under that one there. Bryce wants to rent out the farmhouse there for local get-together, whatever. He would fall under the other.
Yeah, so this, if I own one property on Holiday Island Drive, one home, and I don't have all these other VRBO and Airbnb and so forth, and I'm not a SID, and I don't have a personal website, but I can get one of these forms, and if I collect in November $2,000, I can fill in the numbers, $2,000 times 3%.
You put it
And
under
then
the other.
I send a check to the address that's here, P.O. Box, Holiday Island,
Yes, sir.
right? I can do that myself, I
Yes.
don't need any of these other companies to do it.
Nope. But when you wrote in your $2,000, you would fall under the other category.
Okay,
Because you don't have a personal website, you didn't use VRBO or Airbnb,
okay.
so.
How many are that way versus A and B up there? Would you say just, not exactly, but around,
1%.
is that all?
Yeah.
Okay,
Most of them use some kind of management company,
okay,
or they just do VRBO, Airbnb, Evolve, or Picasa. So
good, thank you.
I tried to make it as simple as possibly could, because I'm gonna be the one filling this out quite often.
I'll give this to you after, good job.
I'm gonna actually set up a program on my computer to where it fills it out automatically for me, and all I have to do is hit print.
Okay,
That's how simple I'm gonna make it.
good.
My only,
Sounds like you need to be working on the website.
my only concern with lumping, Verbo and Airbnb and Evolve is if they have different ones, we were thinking that they would tell you what would be on Airbnb versus Verbo.
I think that same thing
So,
too, so
When
this
you,
week I'm gonna work up another sheet
okay,
to break VRBO, Airbnb, Picasa, and Evolve down, that way they can list them under each one and just not.
right, because when we get the check from those
Yeah.
particular people, that's kind of how we're going to rectify whether or not we're getting paid.
I follow that also,
No, thank you.
but trying to
Okay,
get it all on one sheet.
yeah. I understand. That's hard. Lean a legal sheet.
Do you wanna create it more like a standard ET1 form?
That's what I'm thinking.
Cause it's front and back of the thing, and you know, most of this is gonna be towards that online filing. Most of CPAs and everybody else will go to the online filing, which is a part of this
That's what I'm
website
thinking,
part that will,
yeah, the website can actually pick it up like the ET1,
yeah.
where they can get online and they just put in the numbers. It does all the work for them, they just write the check and, or even pay it
Do,
online.
do the digital online.
Good.
But this is a basic of, I think it's gonna be about the easiest for anyone to fill out that don't wanna do it online.
So you're still working on this, not something that we need to.
No, it's not paved in stone yet,
Okay.
carved in stone yet.
Alright. Any other questions on the tax form? Moving on to discussion on billboard and new business. Secretary, I'll let you have this one again.
Okay, well, let's do the easy one first. We have an opportunity to get the second billboard that's done by the American Legion. That's the second one. The chamber got the first one, and American Legion has said they keep the same. So I have a request for funding, a new form like this that I filled out in blue with the answers. The property's owned by American Legion. It's a total new structure, metal stakes on a concrete pad. We believe there's about 3,800 cars that go past that. The rate is $536 to rent the space. The wrap is done by Master Signs. There's been other people using other people for the signs, and they have not done good quality. We were thinking that the message on the wrap would be about the short-term availability, short-term rentals, because the money's coming from the short-term rentals. It would be paid for by the Holiday Island tax, A&P tax, and it would be presented today. And once the commission would agree to take that billboard, it would be up within the next month or so, and we would evaluate it in 6 months to see whether or not it works. Finish out the year and go from there. It's highly visible. That's why I showed you the picture as you're coming across the bend. So
This is south of town at
it's
187, 23.
It's on 23 coming north out of Eureka. So
What's the length of the term?
it's a year, $536 for the whole year.
Well,
Yeah.
Now, when you set out for 6 months, you'll evaluate that, whether we should go another year later.
Right, whether we should continue it, how it's working, how many more people are coming in this area for that. We do have the Holiday Island Visitor Center, so when they see that, we'll be tracking how many are interested in short-term rentals or whatever, in addition to, people's comments.
Billboards are a little difficult to get the feedback, I think, aren't they?
Well, Miss Kitty's has that billboard, and she says her revenue has doubled from people seeing the billboard and then going to her place because they're going up. So based on that, and based on how many we're gonna see for the chamber, I think we would have some numbers. And it would be a good test to just try it for 1 year, because the rate is really inexpensive.
I think it would be just wonderful to have a nice billboard instead of that one that's out there. It looks like, hey, those people don't care, it's just, I mean, if when you have a billboard, it's gotta be kept up and nice,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Uh-huh.
Right, so, and if you're gonna leave it not nice, not presentable, then it shows like a lack of,
Well, I hear what you're saying. These are plastic wraps.
Yeah.
So some of the old billboards, like the second request,
yeah.
okay, was wooden, painted, and hadn't been maintained for years. That's why it's falling apart.
And they wear all the sun and wind and
Right.
thunder.
Yeah.
Lightning.
That's true. That's true. So I guess the proposal for this one, asking you to approve the Advertising and Promotion Commission to have this billboard.
So this is, we'll call it $14.50 for the year,
Yes.
roughly.
Yeah.
1436.
Yeah. They ain't go down to the dollar, but yeah, 14.36. We did have in the budget currently right now for this year,
Trying to find the budget.
we had
On the financial statement.
$26.50 set aside for advertising, and we've got $24.76 left in that. And this, I guess this budget really was until the election period. And run us through that, but we have spent very little out of the budget by getting the other parts that we were able to cut, which was great. But we do have budget there. Unfortunately, it looks like a lot of the things that are advertising are being pushed over now for doing to
Contracts.
get into the contracts for 2025, and so there are a lot of things in 2025 that we can't get into at all. We can't do for 2025. Funding doesn't come in place until April 20th, I think is the first collection date. And they're doing deadlines as early as December the 1st for publications in 2025 for some of it. So there's definitely some things that we're not gonna be able to get into in 2025. So we're gonna have to search for some of these.
Let me say that that's not uncommon in government. that you collect your money this year to spend next year.
Gives time to research.
Especially starting up at this point. This is gonna be a little delay in getting some of these things going. I know there's a lot of people that wanted to jump and go in place right now, but we're gonna be limited on some of the things we can do.
What is the total if we were to make a motion to approve this? What is the grand total?
1436.
636.
1436.
That'd leave us a little over $1,000, and we're not gonna get any more money till
April.
April, May or something, but I think it's something we need. But it's gonna make it, I hope nothing else comes up is all I'm getting, because we won't get any more money for a while.
Megan,
Yes,
does that include, are you worried that maybe they zing you for other fees such as,
no, these people aren't zinging. I mean, they have a contract, haven't signed it, but there's a contract that's exactly just what I said.
but it includes any artwork or any
Yeah,
design?
that 900 includes the artwork and design.
Who's the owner of the sign? Is it-
American Legion,
American Legion
Yeah.
is the owner of the sign.
they're the owner of the sign, and Master Signs is the one doing the wraps.
They're a company that did a lot of work for Tom Dees back in the day. They're across from Acorns Hardware.
Yes, yeah, and you can see the sign that's up there now going south, as well as the one Chamber did going north. They're remarkably better than the one that Miss Kitty had by a different person.
So, I'm a little confused, and that's not hard to do. But this picture here.
Okay, well,
shows-
that's
That's a
the
different-
second discussion,
Oh,
yeah. I got this one first,
okay.
because I think it had more clarity,
Okay.
and we can talk about the second one.
Okay, let's do this. Can we do, or let's talk about the second one?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
guess before you make a decision on that one,
Okay.
so we can hear what's going on with the other one.
Okay, all right, the second one was, the older folks remember the gateway sign with the golf, that Sheila Wolf had put up. What?
Not that much older, I paid
Well, I mean,
for it.
it was back like in, 20,
Well, I didn't. pay for it.
2021. Okay,
Oh,
well,
okay.
this picture shows what it looks like
Yeah, I know
now.
what it looks like now.
Okay.
I wish they'd just tear the rest of it down.
Well, my thinking would be, once we talk to the owner, and I think we found who the trust company that owns it, if they would allow us to put the sign up. And then secondly, how much to start a steel mechanism, and then again, another wooden platform. So the cost to this would be much greater. And it will take us longer to do because we have to negotiate
Well,
with
and
the
that's
seller.
kind of what I brought up before. We're gonna have to pick and choose. I kinda like the one at the bottom of the hill,
Yeah.
because it's ready, that's gonna have to wait.
Right, we could wait and we could evaluate it, but we could research whether or not we wanted to put it there, if it's possible there, how much it would cost to
I
construct.
like the idea of it there, because it's right there at Gateway where it's,
Yeah.
you turn off to Holiday Island before you go to Eureka Springs, if
Yes.
you're going that way.
That's
But
right.
we can't, it's
No,
gonna
you
leave
can't.
us $1,000, so it's
No.
gonna be a next year's project.
So
Right.
what is the history on this sign, the gateway one? Why is it like it is now? Who had it? and
I
what
don't
was it?
know all of it, I know a little bit of the story. When Sheila was head of Chamber of Commerce, and I was at that time president of HIAPC, it came up, and we did some research, and I thought it was the bank we talked to get permission to do it, and then HIAPC and Chamber and maybe somebody else donated the money to put that up. And then that's really the last I heard about it, till I realized coming back from Sam's, it's gone. So Sheila did most of that work.
Yeah, it was just, it's painted on wood.
Yeah.
That was the sign.
But, and I like the location, I really, really do,
Yeah.
but it's gonna take some research, and like I said, we're only gonna have $1,000
Right.
left if we approve the other one. It's gonna have to wait till we start making some money.
Well, and David Durbin had suggested this is for the 3%, is, after collecting. I brought it up to see if we were interested in pursuing the evaluation of it.
I'd like to kind of pursue it, but and this is not a joke, honestly, if we found the owner, I'd like to ask him if we could tear it down until
Oh.
we make, because like Ken said earlier, it's worse having a partial sign than having no sign at all, cause it looks like neglect.
Yeah.
You know, and that's not what we wanna be associated with. So I just assume if you'd let me go out with a hammer and take the rest of the damn thing down, I'd be happy for now.
Okay.
It really looks awful.
Then,
Do we need a motion for the first one? Or are we ready to that?
Well, I have a question again on the first one. On our budget, we went over earlier, we have money for advertising, but on our total budget, are we able to move, like somebody said, what if we need something and we only have $1,000 left? We have more than $1,000 in our budget balance, right? Our total AMP budget balance. So, like, for instance, Bryce, you brought up and we passed a motion about the web design. If that cost X dollars and it was more than what we thought, I guess what I'm wondering is how able are we to move money around from advertising to website development to something else?
We can amend the budget and move that around. We do have a miscellaneous category in there of 1,500 to move to that, and I'm guessing that would come towards that web development side after we found out what the rates were.
So if we pass the $1,436 motion and did that sign, and we got the fellow to let us tear down the sign that looks terrible in this picture, and maybe go in with something else later, and we did the website, do we have enough money to do all that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
They're in separate categories,
Yeah.
and it's,
Okay.
we've got that and we've got that.
Okay. What other kinds of things does anybody think that we would have coming up besides website development, billboards and so forth that would take a lot of money before we start getting some money in to the treasury?
Good question. I think one of those, I guess, we cover some of in the next discussion that's on the agenda. We'll cover some of that. That is a question that exists right now. We have the budget that's set in place for what we currently have going. And I believe that there is going to be some other request to the city council in funding some of the things that are the more expensive side of starting it up in the payment processing them all to the city to get to the point of collection of the tax. So we're kind of stuck in a weird spot at this point on that.
Well, the mayor is here, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Dan, but when we formed and it got last Tuesday got passed, thank you very much. Doesn't the city council and the mayor feel that the A&P commission is sort of separate and apart from the other part of the city council, i.e. the money, the budget part of it? And just taking out what Bryce just said, you probably wouldn't be amenable to say, hey, we need $1,500 more than what's in our budget before April, whatever. You know what I'm saying?
I can tell you the city's budget is awfully tight right now because of what HIAPC is asking from the city.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's gonna be any more A&P money coming from the city.
Okay. Thank you. That's what I thought.
So, you know, my advice would be, don't spend money on a bulletin board right now yet. If you really think you're gonna need money to mail out notifications to people that they gotta start collecting the tax.
Yeah.
Entering into contracts with all of these, management companies, because you're gonna need some legal help probably in doing that.
Yep.
The first priority is gonna be making sure that you got your revenue nailed down, coming in on time.
And I think that part is going to be,
And whether that bulletin board is there next week or, the 1st of April, I don't think makes a whole lot of difference.
Well, other
But
than,
not being able to get all the contracts going, getting your banking set up so that people can make their deposits and everything else.
but then on the other hand, could he sell it to somebody else while we're waiting?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the downside.
Yeah, you can.
Mr. Chair, I appreciate what the mayor just said, and I'm wondering about what he said about any help that we might need. And you've got a business, you're a businessman, you're busy. Peggy for sure is busy, way busy. I've got a lot of volunteer busyness, but I'm wondering what we need here in terms of Jill does a great job for the city council here. She's the mayor's secretary as well as the city council secretary. Are we looking at in any time in the future where we could hire somebody, I don't know if they'd be in this building, maybe, but to do some of the work that, are we, and this came up a couple of months ago when we were talking about collecting the tax and the tax form and so forth. Are we expected to do this on a volunteer basis, the six of us that sit around this table? You're shaking your head no, Peggy.
I kind of shake it both ways.
Yeah.
You know, as I dig into it farther and farther, there are parts that we can definitely do as far as the board, but there are definitely things that I don't think that we can do. We're going to have somebody to do some parts of it. Obviously, there's a high degree of accuracy when you start talking about collecting an actual tax and having something in place. There are some spots that are needed for some of that collection to happen, and so that's a process that
I think I agree with you. And you're going into another elected position, appointed position soon that will take your time, and according to what the mayor said, and I know on that job, we need a lot of looking carefully at the budget of the SID and the BOC. And that budget, that first meeting is, I think, November 18th, if not a special meeting to be called. But at any rate, I think because of the opposition to the tax and the all of a sudden quick rejection we got for it, not rejection, but signs all over the place and so forth. Number one, I was glad it passed. Number two, I think we need to show the taxpayers that we're going to collect that tax very efficiently and professionally. And I don't know that any of us sitting around this table, either retired or volunteering a lot of things or working still, are the people to do that. I think we need to look at our budget to hire somebody to do that, be an assistant, not full-time. But I think the city council and mayor have worked this out really well for their person, Jill. I come up here several times as a citizen and got great service. Even 9 to 12 and sometimes longer, but you know what I'm saying? We need to really look carefully on this, and billboards, I think I agree with the mayor that even though I'd love to see it, I think it might be something we could put off for a while.
The only advantage of having a billboard is so people actually see that we're doing something for their yes vote.
And I guess
It's like a
I'll take it a
reinforcement.
couple of different ways as far as this goes. The budget that we're looking at right now, while we do have $8,291, we originally budgeted for us to be out of that money on November the 5th. That's as far out as that budget went. And we were able to retain, obviously, a very large portion of that budget that's in place. And so we are going to have to produce something for people to see at some point. And obviously, we did the event at Ribs and Rides. We did see other than that. I understand the problem that's coming up right now is with the part of getting the things in place to collect the money for the payments, some of the CBA stuff, some of the legal stuff that are coming forward to get everything in place, and we're going to have those costs. And I know that after looking at the city's budget stuff, there is, as the mayor said, it's tight on the city stuff with what's going on right now. Even with that tight, I don't, even right now at the budget, I will say I don't think that even with the budget, if we dedicated that all to the time frame of the tax collection, I don't believe that we have enough in the budget right now to fulfill the park to get to collection time.
Well,
And so we do have that shortfall of.
I think I
what's going on
told the commission on the last meeting that I was gonna go and see Mike Maloney, and ask about some questions that I had and how they do it in Eureka. And it was before the election. He was out of the office that day, but I think they had 2 full-time secretaries, or at least there were 2 women in that office. They get like $2.3 million, so that's a big deal, a big budget. I understand that, but I don't see how with your business and what you have to do in your own business and professionalism, and then coming up with a post on the BOC, that how are we gonna get this all done? And Peggy, I know her real well, she's going 18 hours a day on the chamber and everything
That's,
else.
the next line is discussion of the financial services.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right, and that's why it's on the agenda to talk about.
I don't mind passing the 1436 and having that happen, but I think it would be incumbent upon us to get this corrected, and like I said, go and talk to the person that owns this and take it down so it's not such an eyesore.
And if we all agree, we can be putting that into the budget after May or March, when we start having money.
But thousands of people go by that every day.
So let me ask this question, and obviously American Legion's not here to actually deal with this part, but at points of not being able to purchase something with obviously things coming up in the near future that we need to cover at the time, can we go back to American Legion with I'm trying to think of what it is. Some contract agreement with a future date of more towards April, so that we can secure the sign now, and it may be a percentage of what the agreement would be right now, to then go active with it in April at collection time.
We can still put it up now, but a deferred payment till April? Is that what you think?
Either that or defer putting it up with a hold until April. I would rather
We would
take a
lose
shot
it.
at trying to get them to agree to some contingency part than turn it down now and not have it
I
and
think
somebody
they
else get
could,
there.
I think they would allow us to wait and pay for the billboard in April. I'm not sure about the wrap.
It would have to be more like May, though, not April.
Yeah.
Okay, cause it'd be April 20th before the first collection date came due, and it would be,
I happen to be in charge of the memorial garden at our church. It's where, it's a columbarium. And I talked to, in fact, we had an event at our church today, and one of the officers of the American Legion was there. And I talked to other people that they're in sort of financial difficulties, the American Legion, the building, the grounds, and so forth. I think they're going to be wanting, in order for them to keep going, the VFW is gone now. The VFW organization, which is a wonderful group, they're gone. Mainly because they didn't have anybody to step up and be a leaders. But that's another story. But the American Legion, I think, needs this billboard income for their building, to keep the building going, the mortgage and so forth on the building. And I don't want to say too much more because I don't know the details, and it wouldn't be appropriate for me anyway. But I don't think they're going to be able to delay getting the money and give us the benefit of the billboard on that nice corner.
We just have to ask. I don't know, we'd have to ask.
So the 536 is like renting that sign for the year from the American Legion.
Yeah,
We
So the
could,
900 goes to a completely different
right,
thing.
that goes to
We could
master
Why don't we just pay
signs.
the 536, have the sign secured, and hold off till after May to do the rest?
we could do that. Why don't we ask them this, just a curiosity, if they prorate it, and we pay half of 536 from now until whatever 6 months is from now, with the understanding that in May, we sign a year contract for 536.
so you wanna just hold it in
Just-
dormant
Yeah,
until
in
that
other
point
words,
in time?
giving them $250, $260 to guarantee that we have that, and then in May, we'll sign the contract that goes from May to May. Instead of.
And not have a wrap. I mean,
And
just-
not have a wrap at all. We'll
Until
buy the wrap when we get some money. I've just a thought, cause
Yeah.
I don't wanna lose a location.
No.
That's the issue.
That's what I was thinking too, just go ahead and pay that year's rent on that.
Yeah, and we could go either way. We could pay
Yeah.
year's rent now and then buy the wrap later, or we could see if they prorate it. Give us a 6-month lease now and then a year's lease at that point in time, and then we're only diminishing the budget by $250, $260. And I know it's money out the window, cause we don't have anything to show for it, but we've held the space. Just a thought.
So then, I mean, I'd make them, I mean, you've been dealing with them on talking about this. I would just make the motion that we send you back to come up with some deal along the lines of that, whatever it is.
Okay.
We'll bring it back to,
We're running late. Can we make a motion that Peggy's authorized to offer half, and then with the understanding we sign a lease in May for a year, or if they don't want that, give her the authority to sign the year lease starting now.
I'll second.
Give her both ways, both options, leave the option to her, so she doesn't have to come back to us and have another motion and stuff.
I would second if you approve this motion.
If I get that in.
If he gets it out the words right.
If I can word it so it makes any sense.
so if you would, just reword it one more time.
Okay,
so that we
let
know
me
exactly
think
what
about
it is.
this. I think we ought to authorize Peggy to negotiate if there's a 6-month contract, if they'll take it with the understanding we get an automatic renewal for the year starting in May. If they won't go for that, we authorize her to sign a year's lease starting next month
I
at the
second.
536. And then we'll worry about the wrap some other time.
Okay. We have a first and a second on that. Secretary, you want to take a roll call vote on that?
Okay. Commissioner Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Elwood,
Can we hold off for a second? Reread the motion to her.
okay.
I hate for her to vote when she hasn't
I
heard what
was-
the motion is we're voting on.
She hadn't heard the last
She hadn't heard the
45
discussion,
minutes of
even though
discussion.
it didn't.
Oh, that's true, too.
So,
Oh, that's just, aye. Complicated.
It's nice of you to think. Chair Holland.
aye.
Okay, Commissioner Plumley,
Aye.
okay, and, I don't know if I can even vote because I haven't made the recommendation to do it.
Sure you can.
Okay, aye. Okay, and it passes that motion. Thank you.
I guess you could have abstained since you didn't know what we were talking.
Well,
Okay.
okay, and,
Well, we beat that horse to death.
Yeah, we
and
did.
then do we want to do something with this?
The
We can
second one.
recommend that I just,
The
it
second
gets
one, I think we-
researched and brought back?
Just, well, we're not in a position to do anything with it other than ask the owner if we can tear it
Right.
down.
Okay,
And we're still not in the
I
part of
don't
knowing
need
who
any
the
cost to
owner
do
is
that.
at
I've got a
this point here.
sledgehammer.
So,
I got one too.
okay.
There you go.
Got a
Well,
chainsaw.
Just ask permission to
We'll
take
read-
it down.
I don't even think we have to do any motion to make
No, we'll
that
just-
happen. We'll just explore that.
Explore it, okay.
And maybe we'll have some rate to redo it later on and we can bring that.
Or I
back
could
on.
just do it and ask for forgiveness afterwards.
Okay. Financial
Right.
discussion.
Glad we missed all of this, Sheriff.
Yeah.
Moving on to, discussion on financial services. This is just opening up the conversation of the part that becomes the expensive side of this tax collection and all, which includes the parts of needing to hire some people for some of the CPA type needs of the tax collection, with the form part going into the monthly collection and financial information that has to be entered. Mayor, you may have a comment on this. Obviously, you'll have Wes here for that. Is there access to the A&P to use Wes Dilly in any scope, or is that completely off the table? Do we need to go looking totally for somebody separate from that?
speak for Wes, I think we'd have to I think Wes is willing to do whatever is in the best interest of the city, but, you know, not knowing specifically what your needs are, I wouldn't wanna speak for him.
So, but I guess,
I would hate to, for the city in total, whether it be A&P Commission or the city or the two combined, I would hate for us to go to the outside and spend money on outside services that we could do with very little effort, a reasonable amount of effort internally for no extra cost. I mean, every dollar we spend on administrative cost is a dollar we don't spend on advertising and promotion. So, yeah, we can, you know, we can sit down with Wes and talk about it for sure.
okay,
Well, and you're also going to a meeting for some other AAP and see how they do it, so.
yeah,
I think it may be something to be tabled for next month.
there are,
We've had a discussion with Wes and maybe even Jill and the other A&P people to see how it's done, then we can. 'Cause right now, I
The
don't
other
know enough about
A&Ps
what's
have-
required to.
They have big, and they'll have finance people statistically.
They also have budgets of
Well, no, that's
up
true.
to
Millions
7
of
figures and
dollars.
stuff.
That's true.
you know, along with that, there's some legal parts in this, of which we do have access to the city's legal at this point. And, we have asked for interpretation of things. And I know we are set to cover the costs that we have from that legal also, so, we'll eventually see a bill, through it. Other financial services are some of the online payments for the tax redemption. There are, in case of these, only you do about the online, redemption for the tax stuff, people paying online.
Yeah,
Most of them, at this point,
yeah, we
a
got,
majority of them do it online now.
we have a, good court service, collects all of our money and then sends the money to us.
Yep. And that setup of it has so far been pretty costly to get set up and going, so. That whole category right now is being explored. That's what some of these meetings with the other AMPs are going to happen.
What Wes might do, Mayor, is to, when meeting with maybe you and Bryce, figure out what our needs might be, and then if he can't do it because of his limitation, there's a couple other tax people right in the area here, within the block or two. And I know at Eureka, that's been some of the things that they wrestled with over the years is who is their finance person, and are they in-house, are they gonna contract it out to a private accountant or whatever. So I think if he, with his expertise, could find out what the procedures are going to be, and when you talk to the other A&P Commission, maybe you could ask them, who do you use for this type of service, like Wes would provide. But also we have to remember Wes is part-time, is he not, Mayor? Yeah. I don't know what part-time is, he's not done 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
And so I do that, but I think there's a way to do it, and I like your idea of just looking inward and see if we can come up with some plan and do it together. And
I think the biggest problem is, I mean, from my perspective at least, and maybe you're a lot more, maybe you've schooled yourself a lot more in how this all works, but I don't know anything about how that system works of some, you know, like VRBO collecting the tax money, and you know, I suppose it's as simple as them having the routing number or something from
Yep.
your bank account,
That's it.
and they just they make a transfer. Their bank makes a transfer, so it might be pretty simple, but I don't know.
The hardest part is the tracking it, to see whether or not it's being paid, sending out the letters,
Yeah, and,
auditing it, and then,
and I'm not sure you're going to find out a lot more from these. From what I've heard, Fayetteville has the
No.
same problem. They have no idea if they're, you know they're not getting all their money.
Yeah.
They just don't know how much they're being shorted. But because of the way it's set up, where the state doesn't collect the money, it's practically impossible to know, and everybody's in, I don't care if you're a small player or a big player, you're all in the same boat there. So,
I noticed Mike and Sharon were both nodding their head about how it goes directly to the routing number of the bank. You don't even see it or do anything with it.
Yep.
Hopefully.
If Airbnb takes it, they pay it straight to, as far as the sales tax, county tax, that goes straight to the state, and the state distributes. And so my understanding is they'll do the A&P tax the same way.
no,
It'll go to the state, but
No.
let me finish please. But the A&P will come to the city A&P collection. They will separate it out there, my understanding of it.
State doesn't separate it, it's,
No.
they're paying separately.
They separate.
Airbnb will separate it.
They
and
do.
send
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
They will separate it out at Airbnb.
yeah,
And I think VRBO gives you the option whether they send it to the property management company homeowner, or they pay it for you, and they do the same thing.
And I should find out if the other places that have a tax in place, if they continue that option.
I think Evolve does that. I think Bacasa actually won't. I don't even think they have a contract on what little research I've been able to do.
Yep.
I think Bacasa gonna send it to the property manager, property owner.
And that's where a lot of this, on the financial part, is getting these things set up, because most of these require a contract set with Airbnb and VRBO, and that's going to take legal services and everything else to get all that completed. At this point, the vote is not certified for another, I think, 7 days or 10 days. I think we're waiting on the certification of the vote. Airbnb will not have any conversation until that's done. So, and then we can start that conversation. So we're in some delay for that to happen, to even start the conversation, to put legal in place and deal with it. So there are definitely costs that are going to come to get everything in place.
I think it's important to find an accounting person that will put it in the proper things with all the procedures. Then we can go with a lesser clerical or a volunteer. But to get it set up, to avoid all the issues that the other CAPs have, I think is really critical to spend the money up front there on that.
And I guess I'll backtrack on the part that you said. The volunteer part, we have a problem coming up too that looking at now, which is the actual collection of the tax. Either this whole A&P board is going to have to be bonded at some point, or the person on the tax, because it's collecting a tax and you'll have to be bonded for it. And so volunteers are not much of an option when you get to that point of it. I've come to find out, at least on that section of it, there are sections that people could volunteer and do things for A&P, but I think actually handling the tax dollars, it's very limited. So. Any other comments on that one? I know there's a whole lot in that whole category there that's gotta be figured out.
Royce, with the holidays coming up, before we know it, Thanksgiving the next month and Christmas, but we've got to have this done by April 1st.
No, we have to send out notices to the Airbnbs about the tax the beginning of January. And so that means that a process for some of these redemption parts, the form and other things, have to be in place to send out the notice.
So
I don't remember exactly what the date was. There's a period of time where you have to send out a notice of what the taxes that they're supposed to collect, what the process of that redemption of that tax, what the penalties are of that. There's a whole process of notifying a user to a tax collection part.
But like Mayor was saying, if you were to meet with Wes and get what direction we would go in here, that's got to be done probably between now and January 1, right? And then you're going to meet by phone or email or whatever with the different cities coming up.
There's a lot to do over the next month and a half before even sending stuff out. And it's a little bit more complicated with the holidays and all going on.
Okay.
The form that the CAPC uses in Eureka Springs is fairly simple. And had access to that because when we were in a situation where we were doing our bookings through Google, we were having to do that ourselves. We were having to do our own reporting, but it's not a difficult process at all.
Most of them are almost a single line form of that. And then the process for the actual collection time, just because the collection time comes, there will be people that mail things into the PO box. And who is the person picking that up? And what system are they entering it into? And how are they keeping track of that? When somebody doesn't pay, who's sending out the notices? Days after the due date, or whatever that date is, that the notices go out that they haven't filed their tax. There's a whole process there that I can tell you there's plenty of reading out there to do.
And then there's gonna be some ongoing turnover in property,
Yeah.
because I think one of the public hearings tomorrow night for the planning commission is the second public hearing for the same property, because the people that did it the first time sold the property, and the CUP doesn't transfer with the property.
So the new
So,
owners.
which is a good thing from your perspective, at least you know the property is changing hands.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions in there? I mean, there's a lot of questions in there. That category is still being answered right now. And I know the special meeting coming up that we'll have to call at some point has to do with a lot of the details that are found over the next week and a half. That we'll probably have to rush back in here to talk about and figure out what to do before
But,
timeframe.
a month or more ago, when we had a meeting, we spent quite a bit of time on what you just mentioned, Bryce, about penalties and who they had to report to, and what the trial was, if you want to call it a trial hearing, by those who don't pay it, and so on. And some of us were concerned as to, wow, I didn't know I was getting it. Me, I'll say Ken, was concerned about that. But, so, it's pretty serious. This is a serious business when you're talking taxing people, business and so forth. And so when would be the next meeting that we would have that we could say, well, we're on the way, we're about halfway there, or we're not anywhere near a quarter of the way there, or we gotta call in some expert help, or what?
I see the next meeting, and we'll talk about it when we get scheduling too, but we're probably going to need another meeting, and looking at a calendar, probably as early as late next week. Because we're going to have to make some choices of some things to move forward, to be able to put some of the things in place before those things come up. And I don't wanna push it into the last week in November, cause it's Thanksgiving and most people are gone or away, and it's hard to get a hold of people and do things, so. Maybe as early as late next week, maybe we'll have more answers and directions and some
Well,
things.
what is your first call that you mentioned earlier in the meeting, the first chat?
See, I've got one Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon, Thursday midday, and Friday afternoon, so,
Thank you.
there's a few of them.
Yeah, great. Are they large cities, medium, small, like us? Or?
Everything from the size of Eureka all the way to Hot Springs, Little Rock, Fayetteville, Bentonville, all over the place. Searcy, Arkansas. So there's quite a few. I don't have anything else on that category unless somebody else has a comment or question. Public, Mayor, you have any on that one? It's a big category that's gonna have to get diced up over the next couple weeks and be more defined.
When you talk to these other AP committees, one of your questions gonna be what they use as collection, how they collect.
Collection,
Accounting.
even down to accounting. I know that most of them, even in the small conversations that I've had so far, the majority of them are in QuickBooks. We do know that.
Online.
Yeah.
Well, that's $400 a month. I think.
No, the chamber's like $600 a whole year. for the online.
I'm in the wrong QuickBooks here.
There are a bunch of different versions of it. But a lot of them are using QuickBooks. Even big places that you would think would be using something else are in QuickBooks.
I mean, you know what the ET1 looks like, I don't know if anyone else does. Is there any way we could find out who actually created that type of program? And kind of mirror it and adjust it to our needs?
Maybe. I mean, that's a BFA side, so that's a completely different department.
Yeah.
That's the state side.
But what I'm saying is that we could find a way to copy, mirror it, but adjust it to what we needed.
Yeah.
That would make collection on that part a little bit easier for people.
Yep. And I'm sure with these conversations that are coming up, I'll see what they're currently using in each one of these A&Ps. Most of them are, like I said, a single line.
Yeah.
Filled out. Most of their work actually has to do with the payment side of the online. The actual collection part, the data is not something that they're doing a whole lot with. It's mainly the payment gateway.
I'd like to make a comment, Sharon. We talked earlier about filling Tyler's position, and I'd like to ask the public who are here, thank you for being here tonight, that if you know of anybody who fits that category that Tyler had, and the mayor suggested him, and I'm sorry he's not here with us, but I would call it a crisis right now for the BOC and the City Council and the A&P Commission. About the only place there's not a crisis is the JPs at the Quorum Court. There's 11 of them over there, 11 members of the Quorum Court to cover Carroll County. One of the things is they get paid $325 a meeting. I don't know if y'all knew that or not. That's a lot of money. But at any rate, I told one of the members, that's a friend of mine, that they have a better agent than we do. Better booking agent. But at any rate, we are very, out of it. And the BOC just, we had 2 withdrawals out of 3 members, coming up for the position of Mr. Stamps. We had 2 people running for 1 position at the City Council, and I just think it's really a serious kind of thing that we need to find people who are in the field, like Tyler was in golfing and tourism and so forth, and it's not that many hours a month or whatever, and it's really a service. This A&P, I like the idea, I voted for it, I'm sitting on the commission, but we need another member, and it just gets a little discouraging over the years I've been here, and the 8 years I was on the commission, BOC, that I ask a lot of people to run. A lot of people. And
I know.
Too busy, don't want to do it. And part of the thing, and I mentioned in the City Council 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, about the problems that we have with the Ethics Commission and the complaints that a member of the community is giving to everybody on the BOC. And you have to answer the lawyers down there and send in letters, and it's totally false, but people are saying, I'm not getting into that. I mean, you don't get paid, and you're getting assaulted by a member of the community, and then you have to answer. The next meeting down there is November 22nd. I have 3 charges, and 2 of them have been resolved. If the 3rd one isn't, I have to drive to Fayetteville and represent myself, pro se, as an attorney, and I'm not one. I got to put on my tie and get up in front of that commission, and it doesn't need to be. That's a 4-hour drive down, 4-hour drive back, and maybe stay.
They'll let you do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
They're letting me do mine on Zoom
Do
anyway.
they? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. But
You're not alone in the ethics complaint.
And I don't want to get into too much detail, but it is a problem, and we need a lot of people asking, really considering in their own self, can I do this, and will I jump in? Mine was a year. Mayor appointed me until next June, and then we'll be off the commission, but others of you are 2 and 3 and 4 years. But we need some volunteers. We need to step up to the plate and help out.
Here we are, I mean, we're in commission comments, so I do want to back up to one thing real quick though. I did look at the the dead date for the notice to go out to the taxpayers in this, and that dead date is December 27th is when that notice has to go out. So,
Merry Christmas.
I knew it was right around the beginning of the year, but I had to look it up real quick, and the city ordinance has it for, March 1st is the first date of collection of the tax. Payment of the tax wouldn't happen until April 20th, the next month. So the first collection date is March 1st, making that 60-day mark December 27th that the notice has to go out of the tax. So, it is not far away.
Yes.
Any other commissioner comments? You have one?
No.
I figured you weren't here, you might want to have some floor time here. Public comments. We have public.
Doesn't sound easy. It's daunting, that's for sure. It just seems like every organization is looking for people to step up. Talking to Bill Eby today, and it used to be something in the past that it was an accepted requirement of civic responsibility that people did this, and it's just not so today.
That is true. No other public comments, there's not any public online comments right now. We can go into scheduling.
12/9 is the regular meeting, I
12/9.
think, isn't it?
No, it would normally be December 2nd would be the first
First
Monday,
Monday.
but that's the HIAPC tree lighting.
Oh,
Say it again.
what am I?
December 2nd, isn't that your HIAPC tree lighting?
Yeah,
Okay.
except,
You're
right,
right.
we're gonna do it a little different this year.
Oh,
It's still gonna be a Christmas party at the ballroom that night.
yeah, 5:30 or,
Yeah, somewhere
okay.
in there.
So, I mean, our AMP is generally the first Monday. However, there's a HIAPC thing.
Go and delay it one
So do
day.
you want to delay it? I don't know. Okay, you want to delay it till Tuesday, December 3rd, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think we can delay it another week. We're already gonna have to have special meetings for certain things, so.
Third.
Okay, the 3rd. Did you want to meet again in November?
Yeah. Anybody have a problem with a Thursday, like the 21st? That is a week from this Thursday.
I have a board meeting, I'm sorry.
You have a board meeting?
How about Monday, the 18th? If you're having your meetings the week of the 11th?
December 21st, let's get close to Christmas.
No, we're talking
He's talking
November.
We're talking about November, special
I
meeting
mean-
for November.
Okay,
You could have your meeting without me on the 21st.
6 p.m.
What about the 19th?
City meeting at 6 o'clock.
This city meeting. Do make it the 18th. Let's do the 18th, because if we do find somebody to appoint to the AMP, we can give it to the city council for them to approve it on the 19th.
So it's November 18th, Monday, 6 o'clock, here's the special meeting, is that right?
Okay,
Does that work for everybody?
yeah.
BOC meetings that morning, workshop, and the
Right.
25th, 18th, and November 25th, vote. That'll work.
The budget you present to the city council doesn't have to be in great detail, you know, just whatever, like department accounts or whatever big buckets you have. We don't need to know, you know, how much you're gonna spend on pencils and stuff like that. Probably administrative, you know, advertising, whatever.
Okay.
However you have your accounting system set up in the big departmental buckets. If you get too detailed, then you don't have any flexibility to move things around within your buckets without getting approval.
Good point.
announcements. I guess we have one announcement, and I guess we should have done this earlier at the meeting. Everybody knows that the A&P passed, at this point.
Congratulations.
The only reason we're out of the meeting. I will say that Vern and Donna and them, did a big part on their short-term rental committee that they had going, signs, going to the meetings. I think they were at every meeting
Yes, they were.
that was out there.
Very nice.
I appreciate their work, Mr. Chairman, because a lot of the signs were picked up by HIAPC because they were within the, I don't know if it's the median of the road and 18 feet, and some were closer. There was a bunch of signs to not only vote on this issue, but other political signs. There was a bunch from down at the administration building, and people had to go and move them back that way, you know, so
And
they
they
burned did a lot of that.
And they picked it, Dawn House picked it up right away, so we were in compliance with removal of them.
I think almost before really the election day
Yeah, they
started.
did it on the 3rd, for the extra day.
But yeah, it passed. I mean, the voters passed it. It was a pretty decent margin of yes versus no. There weren't very many under or over votes. And so now we have a A&P tax that will stay in place now. So I guess we should have started that before this meeting instead of going through all the other things. But there it is either way. Any other announcements? Any other announcements? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
But we have a first and a second, all in favor? We're adjourned.
Bye.
I didn't mean to sound like that to you, but my mind was running. You didn't know my mouth talked to you.
No, I shouldn't have cut you
I
off.
was trying to get all worded just to what I wanted it to go.
Or we can make it.
I don't like it.
Well, Todd made it.
If we wouldn't. He's
Yeah, he might be back, he's very happy with it.
Oh my God.
Main suggestion
Out on this truck, one block from his house.
Oh my God.
you're gonna rent a car, find a Shannon.
They call it, he texted me, "Hey, come over for a
Shannon's
visit."
about the size of Northwest Arkansas.
told me it
Now, it's
can't be
harder
done.
to find a
Do I have
flight
to tell
there,
who?
Kentucky's a little bit more.
Who was
than
that driving?
Dublin.
Okay, I'll come over here. I mean, I wasn't coming over if I had to move the truck.
Shannon,
I just walked into that before.
Walk out there,
I've learned
walk
from
out the
experience.
door, and walk over to your car.
I love
And
that.
it's a main road going out.
Thank you. We were teaching overseas, we went to Shannon.
Yeah, it's a cute little, airport.
Yeah.
Wrong, they
It's a little airport, much easier. That's, we've done it twice, and we've done it to Shannon twice, and just make sure you go, I would say, make sure you either go to Dingle Peninsula or Carry Peninsula, or both, and it goes all the way around, and just don't have an itinerary, just find it on a map, it's gorgeous, and then all the way up, all the way up to
Okay.
Wild Garden Way.
That today is,
Can't go wrong.
what's
You
today?
did a
Thursday,
dingo.
they should
and,
be
you know,
open.
it's sort of-
They should be open
That's what Dingle was
Thursday.
here, and he built the house at 55,000, I don't know if you know Ron Dingle.
No, I did not.
But
Oh,
we went and got some souvenirs at Dingle for him.
Yeah, that's, that Dingle
Yeah.
Peninsula is
I need
Yeah.
to sign.
And if you get a chance, I wish I could remember the directions to address. Well, we went out to Dingle Peninsula.
They were installed.
One of us got a little verbiage.
Okay, so
It's like
sign.
driving in
Right
Colorado,
back.
and so I took the interior road, and we just went down this dead end road, and there's a bunch of kids with carts,
Yeah.
with horses, and I asked him, what do you, he said, well, I take people
You want
who
me to sign
rides
all
up
of
from
these?
No, I'm curious, I
Dingle
mean, there's been a few
Gap,
other ones that have done the same thing.
and I said, how much? $60 for, and it is gorgeous. Went up there, there's sheep all over, and goes,
Just the two
the
that I
things we
really
accidentally found are better.
Yeah, just two that actually have names on them.
Yes.
But just, we didn't go with just me,
Oh, okay.
Dave and me.
You'll have fun.
I have to be careful to
And he and I,
make sure that we don't.
my old son, so,
Let me see.
and he went
This
through
one, that's
cancer, just went down 3 times.
I know that, yeah.
And, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks for
And
the.
then we got a little greedy and thought, you know, the way to go is short-term rentals, everybody's making
You
money.
wanna go on over?
So between the two of them, it's
You wanna
just,
go over there?
I'll
You wanna
do that.
I just have to pick up up the
And we
names.
had one.
I sit there reading it for me.
Kansas.
Yeah, we're gonna be some.
I worked for 4 years ago, talked to this petition.
And then, okay, then I'll have to correct you, evolve with stuff on
Number
too.
and
Yeah.
communicate, to get fast service and we know what.
But yeah, I might have another, I was thinking,
Yeah. So I've had most
And
of
then
say
the
for the lack of looking,
They
why they
back.
changed. There was one that said they just didn't have any more time to go and deal with the constant change of everything. They went
Had a quick
to
question for you.
Good to
You
see
Roger,
you. I see
Bill,
you.
but-
Oh, no,
but
that
the
was
reason
Alan.
Well, you try to get it, that's right.
I know Roger.
Yeah. I'm wondering how they do it.
You can't get a hold
You know
of
how to
him.
lock
He's
it.
locked,
Yeah.
Kathy probably.
You wasn't here?
Several weeks ago, I heard.
Exactly.
Yeah, Sharon and I are gonna go find some stories.
Exactly. That's right.
You never would have.
Thursday.
That was.
I know, so that's what he always calls
Yeah.
Go over to the
Wrong place. I know.
So, you know, I.
You go to the pub, steak dinner.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah. If you have good property, then usually you can attract it.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
They were gonna close now, I think they're on long term.
And she may have some other